Okay. Oh wait. Hello. So we're going to record a little video here instead of streaming today because I need to get some reading done. So we've got All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. A really great book so far. I'm about halfway through. Hate to do this to you, but yeah. So I'm just going to pick off where I was. And I lost my bookmark. So that's good. Shit. Okay, whatever. I'll figure that out later. Okay. Okay. So, as I pick up where I was, I'll kind of give some backstory of what's happened. I won't be explaining too much, though. Okay, so... Right. Patricia and Lawrence are talking. I think they are actually pretty happy, said Lawrence. They got divorced about 7 years ago, and my mom found a guy who likes to go bird watching. My dad quit his awful day job and went back to college to become a high school teacher. I always kind of thought that they'd be happier if they split up, even though you never want to root for your parents to do that. How are yours? They're, okay, said Patricia. They actually disowned me for a few years, but this past year they've made this big effort to reconnect. She sighed and sucked in more smoke from the elf's head, even though her throat was getting scratchy. It's all thanks to my sister, sort of. Roberta keeps getting arrested, or winding up in the ER. She was always the one who had it together, of the two of us. Now, all of a sudden, my parents have noticed that I'm holding down a job and don't have a criminal record, and they've decided I can be the good daughter now. Like Roberta and I could just trade places. I have no idea how to deal. Hold on just a second, I hear something. I think the maintenance man is coming today. He was supposed to come yesterday. I'm adjusting my necklace. Sorry. He was supposed to come yesterday, but alas, he never made it. And didn't give me any explanation as to why. Okay, so Georgie, don't eat the wires, please. Don't mess with that stuff. G-Bone. Okay, good. You be a good girl. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Oh dear, Lawrence said. Lord Umber let you down. Nope, that's not where we are. Hold on. I have no idea how to deal. Lawrence was going to say something else, but Isobel came home. She was soaked because it was raining and the experimental self-configuring umbrella had gotten stuck in a non-optimal shape, judging from the complaining servo noises it was making, and the fact that the left side of Isobel's cardigan was drenched while the right side was totally dry. She no longer had the long brown braids she sported when he'd first met her as a child, and instead wore her graying hair in a bob. Oh dear, Lawrence said. Lord Umber let you down. This nickname has not caught on with anyone else yet, but he kept trying. Isobel just snorted and threw Lord Umber at the kitchen sink, where he could drain. Lord Umber groaned and attempted to transform into a shape that would protect the sink from any indoor precipitation. He got stuck again, making loud whining noises. Not cool, Isobel grimaced. Not cool at all. A regular umbrella would have been way better. Oh, hello. She had gotten enough rain out of her eyes to see the unfamiliar young woman seated on the couch. Nice to meet you. I'm Isobel. Patricia said her name and they shook hands. Then Isobel ran off to get out of her half-wet clothes. When she came back, she had a snifter of brandy. She sat on the sofa next to Patricia and started making low-maintenance small talk about all the places around the world that would kill for some of this rain. So I think I heard about you, Isabel told Patricia. You go back almost as far as with Lawrence as I do. He seems to collect people for life. She glanced at Lawrence, who squirmed, and he sensed he was supposed to. So Patricia and Lawrence have known each other since they were kids, as this last paragraph just alluded to. They've known each other since they were kids, and they both are very special. Like, Lawrence is an extremely smart, like, science tech kid, right? And he, like, makes this AI thing, but he's too, like, he knows that if he, like, talks about that, like, oh, I was 12 when I made an AI, people will be like, ugh, God, this fucking asshole. So he doesn't talk about it. But he was, like, really smart and shit. And Patricia was also very smart, and she learned how to talk to birds, and she, like, has magic powers that she kind of, like, honed. She went off to... Marty, are you okay? Hey, stop fighting. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Please. Thank you. I'm trying to do a video here. So, Patricia went off to magic school. And Lawrence, the last time that we see him as a kid, he's stuck in boot camp. His parents sent him there at the request of, like, his school and, like, community members and stuff. They're all, like, scared of Lawrence because he was hanging out with Patricia. So something's going on. The parents and all them, they're in on some shit. But this is, like, when they're in their 20s now. So they've just, they've come out of college and they're, like, doing their, real life stuff. I didn't get to do that. I didn't graduate high school, so I was kicked out in 10th grade, and I kind of just tried to get my certificate of graduation from high school, but I was unable to do that because I was just fucking around too much. And then when I was 21 or so, I got my GED, and I passed, with really good numbers except for math. And so then I just, I went straight to work when I was like 18. So anyway, let's get back to the story. I didn't get to do that whole college and then your real life thing. I had to just start my real life, and then I went to college when I was 27. That's the gist of the story. Although I think it's better for me that I did that. Okay, not cool, Isabel Grimace, not cool at all. Wet clothes, blah, blah, blah. You go back as far as Lawrence and I. They were pretty high up in the hills. Despite its name, most of No Valley, N-O-E, spelled, was a steep hillside. No Valley. Okay, I get it. The living room had picture windows facing over the downward slope of the garden out front and the tops of trees farther out. Potrero Hill answered the hill they were on with its own trees and split-level houses. Their front room had high ceilings, and then a spiral staircase led up to the upper level containing Isabel's bedroom, bathroom, and study, with a balcony overlooking the living room. Lawrence's in-law bedroom, what the fuck is an in-law bedroom, was down a few steps over on the other side of the kitchen, with a view of the tiny backyard. The three of them ordered burritos and judged that the rain had stopped long enough to risk trudging down the hill to pick them up. The evening had turned warm, despite the massive puddles at every street corner and the clouds on the skyline. Lawrence walked between Isabel and Patricia and was conscious of being hemmed in by women, especially with them talking past him. How did you end up having Lawrence as a housemate? Patricia asked Isabel. Isabel told the story of Lawrence running off to see the rocket when he was a kid. I kind of kept an eye on Lawrence, and when he got done at MIT, I offered him my spare room for a while. Actually, Lawrence is hardly ever home. This is the first time I've seen him in weeks, which can only mean one thing. Red Dwarf Marathon. Lawrence made a big show of rolling his eyes, even though he was kind of in the mood for the long threatened marathon. For her part, Isabel had just come back from Greenland, where Milton Dirth was building a vault. Milton Dirth is this super rich dude that we haven't met yet in the book, but he's talked about as like, he has this like trust fund or whatever, like science fund thing that he just gives billions of dollars to for them to do whatever the fuck. He's like picked these really smart people, kids and shit. Anyway, I have a notification on co-host. I'm excited to see what that is. Anyway, Isabel had just come back from Greenland, where Milton Dirth was building a vault that was supposed to last 10,000 years and would only be opened by solving a math problem. What an idiot. It looks like a bomb shelter crossed with a caddy store and a high-end funeral parlor. Everything is shiny steel and chrome and marble with glass partitions. What's in the vault? Patricia asked. Seeds? Genetic material? Nope, said Isabel. Milton figures whoever opens it in 5,000 or 10,000 years will have plenty of edible crops. Or they won't be around at all. It's all technological and scientific knowledge. Schematics, plans, basically an instruction manual for recreating our level of technology, including some ideas for what to do if there are no fossil fuels. And certain other elements are unavailable. He is assuming a roughly early 19th century science level in whoever finds it. Which might be a stretch, yes. At least the vault will be easy to find. The one piece of electronics in the whole place will be a vertical beam of light, like a searchlight, going off twice a day for at least 10,000 years. That was one of the hardest parts to create. It's not a serious project, Lawrence said as they crossed Castro Street. Milton doesn't think the human race will still be here in 100 years, much less than a few thousand. This is just his way of hedging his bets, or assuaging his conscience. It's gotten me 3 free trips to Greenland, Isabel said. Honestly, I think Milton's opinions depend on how many interns he's killed today. Hey Marty, that's my cat. How many interns he's killed today. She half winked to indicate this was a joke, and Milton killed no interns. During the dinner, Isabel talked more about her career transition from rockets to Milton's 10% project. Marty, be good. I used to dream about rockets. Isabel scooped a corn chip into the communal pico de gallo. Hey, Gigi. Every single night for months and months after we pulled the plug on Nimble Aerospace, I had these weird dreams that there was a rocket launch going up any minute, and we'd misplaced the final telemetry. Or we were sending up a rocket and it looked beautiful and proud shooting up into the air, and then it collided with a jumbo jet. Or worst of all was the dreams where nothing went wrong. Rockets soared for hours, and I just sat on the ground watching with tears in my eyes. Wow. Lawrence touched Isabel on the wrist. I had no idea. So how did you stop dreaming about rockets? Patricia asked. I think I got bored with it. Boredom is the mind's scar tissue, Isabel said. That's an interesting thing. Boredom is the mind's scar tissue. Kind of hardens you to things. Lawrence and Serafina went to an organic burger place, locally sourced, etc., and Serafina talked about her emotional robots. You won't believe the heuristics. They recognize faces. But also they recognize each face's habitual emotional states. They are getting the concept of moods. They are having moods. Moods are weird. It's not just manifesting an emotion or even sustaining an emotion. It's like a disease state. Like the way we say you nurse a grudge. Serafina seemed to be letting go of the idea that Lawrence was on probation. Serafina and Lawrence are dating. I don't think that they're married yet. Oh, yeah, because he was talking about how he wants to propose to her. But he's, he keeps chickening out. Because he thought he was on, like, relationship probation with her. Because of reuniting basically with Patricia after like not seeing her since they were kids. So they like bumped into each other at this party where Serafina and Lawrence were, and ever since then it's kind of been weird between Serafina and Lawrence. Anyway. Sarah seemed to be letting go of the idea that Lawrence was on probation. He'd gotten her a nice scarf that matched her outfit by some fluke. He was practicing active listening. They'd had brilliant, sunbursting, in-your-face sex a few times. A few times. Lawrence did not talk about himself too much. He kept thinking about the nuclear option. The nuclear option. He tried to judge when would be the optimal time to unleash it. These things work better if you build up to them, rather than as a desperation play. Lawrence remembered his grandma Jules, Jools. One of the last times he saw her alive, slipping the ring box into a ski jacket pocket when nobody else was looking, and whispering in his ear, "Give this to whoever you end up marrying, okay?" And Lawrence, still a little kid, realizing this was a solemn request, whispered back that he would do that. Lawrence had a conviction in his loins that he deserved to be dumped. Because he took Serafina for granted while he was working 14-hour days on the project. Hello, Marty. How you doing? Marty doesn't like it when I talk when he's hungry or wants something. So he will start yelling at me, and I will probably have to stop doing this video, but that's okay. Hey, Bubba. Okay? You want to come up here? Come on. Good boy. You get to see cat butt. Wee, cat butt, cat butt. Come here, Bubba. Jim Jones. Oh, God. Why did I call him Jim Jones? Come here. Or you can lay there, too. That's fine. Here. You want to lay there? Yeah, I'll hold it for you. Good boy. Good boy. Okay, that's all right. Oh, he's upset. Okay. Oh God, they had sun bursting in your face sex. But Lawrence feels like he deserves to be dumped. 14-hour days on the project, or because she was too excellent for him. But the whole point of being a grown-up and an Uber hacker is that you don't get what you deserve. You get what you can get. After burgers and shakes, he and Serafina went to see the new Tornado Surfer movie, and Patricia phoned just as they were debating what snacks to get from the concession stand. Patricia asked if this was a bad time, and Lawrence said, sort of. "Oh, I can call back," Patricia said. "What was it?" Serafina wandered off to look at yogurt-covered pretzels, probably annoyed at him for talking on the phone. Her long fingers lifted the packet of white twists as though plucking flowers. Her nose twitched, and she smiled, as if the pretzels had told her a joke. "I will not let you get away," he said to Serafina in his mind. "Just that my friends want to meet you, my special friends. They know I told you my secret, and they want you to come over for dinner or something. Maybe Thursday?" Patricia's talking about her magic friends. The friends who do the magic. Hold, please. What is this? Oh, somebody I don't follow liked my thing. That's nice. Who are you? Post about cars, Final Fantasy 14 video games. Wonderful. I will check you out in a bit. And what else do we have? Nothing. Okay, good. So, sorry about that little social media check. Are you okay, Gigi? You okay, girl? Something in your eye? She's been having little bookies in her eye lately. Okay, girlie? Oh. Yeah, you're okay. She is so sweet. Okay, so what do we got? Lawrence said yes right away to going to dinner and meeting the friends. Whereas if he hadn't been in a hurry to hang up so that he could go back to being a decent boyfriend, he would have contemplated the prospect of an evening with Patricia's special friends, and maybe even invented an excuse. Who was that? Serafina said. Lawrence said it was his friend from junior high, the weird one, which put Serafina in a position of being able to say she didn't think that Patricia was that weird. The movie sucked. Afterward, Serafina and Lawrence went back to Serafina's place and had the best sex of Lawrence's life thus far. The movie sucked, and then Serafina and Lawrence sucked. The kind where you bite each other hard enough to leave tooth dents, and you keep crashing into each other long after you would have sworn you'd already broken everything. They held each other, both of them vibrating, until Lawrence had to pee. He had to remind himself not to flush after only peeing because everyone was conserving water. When Lawrence got back to bed, Serafina had fallen into a cold sleep and her elbow jutted into him. Relatable. Lawrence didn't look up from his workstation between... Hey! Be nice. I'm watching you. I'm watching you. Please stop. You're gonna bite my finger. You're gonna bite my finger. Georgie. Pick on someone your own size, Georgie. You hear me? You hear me? You little shitbag. You fuckhead, stop it. You fucker! Ah! It hurts, Georgie. It hurts. You are so bad. You're a bad cat. You're a very bad cat. Boop. Ha ha. Ha ha. Human ingenuity. God, she really got me though. Okay. Excuse me. I should grab my water, but whatever. My voice keeps getting lower and lower in register. Okay. He didn't flush, conserving water. Lawrence didn't look up from his workstation between the movie date and Thursday evening because the 10% project was in permanent crisis mode and Milton was blowing up Lawrence's phone 24/7. Milton kept bringing up the idea, or rather the threat, of relocating Lawrence and his team to a secure compound in the boonies so they could work with no distractions. As if Lawrence wasn't already driving himself insane. As if this wasn't already his whole life. Lawrence had just enough time to run home, take a quick shower, and change before he had to be back in the Mission to see Patricia. The Mission is capitalized. They were meeting at some kind of used bookstore where one of the witches lived. Like he was disabled or homebound or something, so he just spent all day and night in his tiny bookshop, which Lawrence suspected was illegal. Lawrence was the kind of sleep-deprived where he saw LCD monitor ghosts when he closed his eyes. He was a couple blocks away from that bookstore, on the corner near the bacon-wrapped sausage cart. Lawrence felt a panic attack starting. He was going to say the wrong thing, and these people would turn him into a knick-knack, like Mr. Rose. Mr. Rose was like a bad killer, assassin guy when these two, Patricia and Lawrence, were kids. And Patricia recently turned him into a wooden penguin? Some kind of bird. Or no, a frog. Turned him into a frog, a little wooden frog. And she didn't know what to do with him. Anyway, he was trying to kill them or trying to fuck them up when they were kids. Anyway. He was scared that they were going to turn him into a knick-knack. Practice your breathing, Lawrence told himself. He managed to get some oxygen into his brain, and it was like a temporary workaround for sleep deprivation. He was probably dehydrated thanks to this crazy heat wave, so he bought some water from the bacon-wrapped sausage guy. Then he made himself walk to the 3-story mall with the Spanish language signs for Patricia, whom he sensed he really wanted in his life. For Patricia. He's doing this for Patricia. The mall looked deserted, and there was only one bulb on the ground floor to guide him to the winding staircase that led past beauty supply stores that looked dead, up to the top floor, where a sign read, "Danger, bookstore is open." Lawrence hesitated, then pushed open the doorway to Danger Bookstore with a jangle of chimes. The bookstore was one surprisingly spacious room with an ancient rug that looked symmetrical until you noticed that the big wheel of fire and flowers at the center was rolling off to the right. Bookshelves covered the walls and also jutted sideways into the room, and they were divided into categories like exiles and stowaways, or scary love stories. The books were about half English, half Spanish. Besides books, every shelf had memorabilia perched on its edge. An ancient ceremonial dagger, a plastic dragon, an assortment of ancient coins, and a whalebone that supposedly came from Queen Victoria's corset. Lawrence didn't get 2 steps inside Danger before someone ran an ultraviolet wand over him to kill most of the bacteria on his skin. Patricia rose from one of the fancy upholstered chairs and hugged him, whispering that Lawrence must not touch Ernesto, the man on the red chase lounge, the one who never left the bookstore. Ernesto hadn't been out in the sun for decades, but his skin was still a warm brown, and his long, high cheekboned face had deep wrinkles. His gray hair was in a single braid, and he wore eyeliner or kohl around his eyes. He was wearing a crimson smoking jacket and silky blue pajama pants, so his outfit looked quasi-Hefnerian. Hefnerian, what is that? He greeted Lawrence without rising from his chaise. I gotta look up Hefnerian. Oh, Hugh Hefner. I see. Everybody was super friendly. Lawrence's first impression wasn't of any one person, but just a gaggle of people all talking at the same time and clustering around him, with Patricia watching from across the room. A short, older lady with wide glasses on a string and black and white hair in an elaborate bun started telling Lawrence about the time her shoe had fallen in love with a sock that was much too big. Did you hear that? My poor throat. A tall, handsome Japanese man in a suit with a neat beard asked Lawrence questions about Milton's finances, which he found himself answering without thinking. And a young person of indeterminate gender, with short spiky brown hair and a gray hoodie, wanted to know who Lawrence's favorite superhero was. Ernesto kept quoting the poetry of Daisy Zamora. Who is Daisy Zamora? Daisy Zamora is a contemporary Latin American poet. Her work covers daily life, human rights, politics, revolution, feminist issues, art, history, and culture. Wow, interesting. Cool. They all just seem so nice. Lawrence didn't mind that they were all talking at once and overflowing his buffers. Probably this was because of the magic thing, and he ought to freak out. But he was too tired to make himself worry about the things that didn't already worry him on their own. Lawrence was nervous that he smelled like bacon-wrapped sausage fumes. I'm really worried I smell like bacon-wrapped sausage fumes. Okay. The bookstore had no musty old book smell, and instead it had a nice oaky aroma. Similar to the way Lawrence imagined the whiskey casks would be before you put scotch into them for aging. This was a place where you would age well. There was some debate over whether they would go out for dinner, everybody except Ernesto, that is, or just bring in food. Maybe we should check out that new hipster tapas place, suggested Patricia. Tapas! Dorothea, the elderly lady, clapped her hands so her bracelets rang. The person of unknown gender, whose name rather unhelpfully was Taylor, said perhaps Lawrence would be. I mean, Taylor's a great name. Said perhaps Lawrence would be more comfortable on neutral ground. Yes, yes, you must go, Ernesto said in his gravelly voice with a hint of a Latin accent. Go, do not worry about me at all. In the end, Ernesto insisted so loudly that they must simply leave him behind. Everyone wound up offering to stay in with him. Lawrence couldn't help wondering if he just witnessed a wizard duel. Somehow they managed to catch the Korean taco truck driving from one location to another and bought a dozen spicy bulgogi? Bulgogi? I don't know. I've never had a Korean taco. I don't think I've had Korean food before. Have I? I don't know. And Marty and barbecue tofu tacos while it was stopped at a red light. That's pretty nice. Marty, chill out, please. Lawrence's taco had a lot of cilantro and onions, the way he secretly liked it. His anxiety melted away, and he envied Patricia for having such charming friends. If this had been a gathering of Lawrence's tribe, by now someone would have already tried to prove they were the supreme expert on some topic. There would have been dick measuring. Shut up! I'm trying to say dick here. There would have been dick measuring. Instead, these people just seemed to accept one another and feed each other tacos. Oh my god. Sounds amazing. They all got seats on folding chairs or the handful of actual armchairs in the bookstore. Lawrence wound up sitting between Taylor, the young person of indeterminate gender, and Dorothea, the lady of indeterminate age. Dorothea smiled and leaned over as Lawrence chewed his taco. I once owned a restaurant that had doorways in a dozen cities around the world. Each entrance wore a different menu advertising a different cuisine, but we had no kitchen, just tables, tablecloths, and chairs. We carried the dishes back and forth between the cities and different lands. So were we a restaurant or a conduit? Lawrence wasn't sure if she was telling a real story or just taking the piss, or both. He stared, and all at once, her face was full of laugh lines. After dinner, Ernesto sauntered to a bookcase labeled Parties That Already Ended, which was mainly histories of various empires. That's funny. He removed a Decline and Fall with a flourish, and the bookcase swung open, revealing a passageway leading to a secret bar. Decline and Fall is a book, apparently. Revealing a passageway leading to a secret bar, with a neon fairy on the wall and a sign proclaiming it to be the Green Wing. The Green Wing was another oblong, spacious room like Danger Books, but this one was dominated by a circular wooden bar in the center of the room, with a single rack full of absinthe. Art Nouveau maidens and crystal dragons and parchment scripts adorned the bottles, which were every size and shape. A few people wearing corsets and poofy skirts were already drinking at the high table in the far corner, but they all waved at Ernesto. Wait, so people are already down there drinking? They're like having this party and shit. They're like, oh yeah, there's people down there drinking absinthe. Let's hit it. A few people, blah, blah. Ernesto climbed inside the bar and started pouring from bottles into shakers. Patricia got next to Lawrence long enough to whisper in his ear that he should be careful with any drink made or touched by Ernesto. Take small sips, she advised. If you plan on having a brain tomorrow, take small sips. None of these people seemed to be super influential, and if they ruled the world they were doing so good of a job of hiding it. In fact, every other conversation was about how messed up the world was and how they wished things could be different. Ernesto mixed Lawrence something bright green that captured the neon light, and he caught Patricia's warning gaze before lifting it to his mouth. It smelled so delicious. He had to make a mighty effort to avoid pouring it through his lips. His mouth was full of wonder and joy, and there were so many sharp and sweet and bright flavors that he needed to keep sipping to identify half of them. Lawrence was legless. Legolas. He stumbled until someone helped him into a brocaded 18th century chair that he could not find his way out of again. He realized that this was a perfect opportunity to ask some questions about magic, since nobody could blame the drunk guy for being nosy, right? He raised his head and looked into the swarm of blurry shapes and lights. Excuse me for a second. Okay, sorry. Had to cough. He strained to form a not too rude question. He was unable to find a verb to save his life, or a noun. It has been a pleasure to meet you, Lawrence, Ernesto said, pulling up a stool close to Lawrence's face so that his eyeliner and unpinned long gray hair were in something like focus. He had lowered his voice to a conversational tone, but it still sounded theatrical, every word enunciated like a stage actor's diction. Ernesto was close enough for Lawrence to catch the scent of an entire meadow pollinating coming off of him. Close enough that if Lawrence toppled forward, he would be touching Patricia's mentor, which Patricia had said would be very bad. Ernesto leaned closer, and Lawrence shrank back. I must ask you a question or two, Ernesto said between sips from a martini glass. About your intentions toward Patricia. She has confided in you, and we approve because everybody needs a confidant. But you must promise us to never tell nobody else about the things she shares with you. Quiet, Marty. Not your lover, Serafina, not your best friend, Isabel, and certainly not your patron, Milton. Can you make such a promise? Lawrence said, yes, I can. Will you humor me and swear to it? That if you break your promise, you will never speak another word again to anyone. Ernesto laughed and waved one hand as if this were a mere formality. But in the background, Lawrence saw Patricia shaking her head, her eyes wide with panic. Sure, Lawrence said. I promise. And if I ever say anything about magic to anyone, I hope I lose my voice. Forever, Ernesto shrugged, as if mentioning a minor detail. Forever, said Lawrence. There's just one other favor we wanted to ask, said the Japanese guy, Kawashima, coming into focus next to Ernesto. They were almost touching. We worry a lot about Patricia, you see. She went through a lot when she was younger. First that Theodophilus douchebag, then later that regrettable business in Siberia. I hate it when you talk about me in the third person when I'm in the room, Patricia said. Not to mention the way you're railroading my friend here. We want you to help us look out for her, Kawashima said to Lawrence. We have a few rules, but our biggest taboo is against what we call aggrandizement, making yourself into a big deal. So we want you to support her and be her friend in a way that none of us can, and yet also to remind her that she is just a person, just like anyone else. And if she gets too high of an opinion of herself, will you do this for her and for us? Ernesto said. Lawrence thought for a moment they were going to ask him to agree that his hands would turn into fins if he didn't help Patricia's ego and keep Patricia's ego under control. But for this promise, just a vague, I'll do my best, seemed to suffice. Kawashima slapped him on the shoulder, and everybody repeated a few times how nice it had been to meet him. Lawrence felt his gorge rising. Someone guided him to a small toilet in the far corner of the absinthe bar, and he crouched over it for a good 15 minutes until his stomach was empty. Poor Lawrence. I've never tried absinthe, but, I guess if I drank enough of it, I would puke. Marty, please. It's not that big of a deal. Is it even 12 yet? No, it's 10:55. Oh. I'm sorry, y'all. I just have to make fun of him sometimes so I don't yell at him. Hold on just a second. Just checking my messages. Oh, cutie. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the next page is the end of the chapter, and I'm gonna stop there. So let's give this last little bit all I got. Will you do this for her and for us? I'll do my best. Slapped him on the shoulder. Nice to meet you. He puked. Taylor and Patricia took Lawrence for vegan donuts over on Valencia Street. His head was split in half, and he was seeing spots. Taylor whispered something in Lawrence's ear, and he felt a bit more even keel. Plus, coffee and ibuprofen helped, too. You did good, Taylor told him. You were in the frickin' lion's den, and you were cool as cream cheese. It just pisses me off, Patricia said. They think I'm some kind of egomaniac, when all I want to do is make croissants, and get on with my life. And they can't just ask Lawrence to keep his trap shut without putting a spell on him. And they can't just ask Lawrence to keep his trap shut without putting a spell on him? Okay. The full weight of it hit Lawrence then. They'd put a spell on him. A curse, really. If he spoke a word about magic or magicians to anyone, he would never speak again. He knew in his sore guts that this was a fact. Of course, there was no way to test except the hard way. He stared at his thumbs, pivoting on the oaken table. What if he had to text people instead of talking to them? For the rest of his life. It's not like that, Taylor said to Patricia. You should be grateful that you have people worrying about you. Ever since you moved here to Succa Free, you've been overcompensating. I feel bad about Siberia too, but we have to move on. Okay, Lawrence said. So I'm now apparently under a... He looked around the coffee place twice, trying to figure out if anyone was within earshot. I'm going to be facing certain constraints about what I can say to people who weren't in the bookstore tonight. So that means you can explain to me, right? You can tell me how this works. I'm just curious is all. Sounds fair. Taylor handed him a second donut. Yeah, okay, Patricia said, but not here. Maybe this weekend. We can go for a walk in the park. I remember how much you like the outdoors. Lawrence shuddered, which was probably a sign he was starting to feel like himself again. Chapter 20 is next, and I will be stopping there. I am a little bit over halfway. Probably won't be recording the rest of this. This is just a little test to see, firstly, how the microphone volume, or how the microphone works that my bestie girlfriend gave me. My girlfriend Robin gave me this microphone. It's amazing. So I just wanted to see like how crisp it is. And I wanted to practice reading out loud a bit because I have not done that in a while. And I also wanted to practice talking over my cat. So there's that. Okay. Love you, bitches. It's time to go. Hope. Marty.